Recently, I helped a leader because the company was going through a crisis and it was falling apart and at the verge of bankruptcy. And this leader was going through a crisis in both the professional and personal life because these two actually affect each other. That reminded me my career in leadership from my early 20s to recent years that I helped many companies to turn around, to be successful and go through crisis successfully. How about you? Have you been in a crisis in your career, in your company, in your organization, or any aspect of your life, maybe in your personal life? Or have you seen anyone to go through a crisis? If you have been through a crisis, you know what I'm talking about. Do you remember how did it go? Did you come out of the other side of that crisis successfully? Did you survive and thrive maybe during the crisis or after the crisis? Just remind yourself, how did it go? Or if you have seen a leader or someone who goes through a professional crisis in his or her professional life, or maybe in the personal life. Per my experience of my career in leadership, in different businesses, different companies, through medical school, two medical schools, and before that, Air Force and electric power plant, and many other companies in healthcare and other fields that I have been in the leadership position or I help them through coaching, because I'm doing it since 2014. I do coaching and speaking on leadership. And I've seen many people going through crisis. And I've helped many people to come out of the crisis successfully. Because surviving and thriving are very important. And it's very interesting that when you go through a crisis, it's like going through a grief. Maybe because when you lose a company or organization, when you see that company or organization that you own or you are the leader of that organization, it's just like your kid, your baby. It's like your loved one. When you lose a loved one, what happens? You go through grief, right? And if you are not prepared, most likely you're going to get stuck in one of the 5 stages of grief. What happens when you go through a grief, especially when you are not prepared, when you are not ready for it, when you have not practiced before, when you have not reprogrammed your mind? What happens? So the stages of grief, the 5 stages, are, the first one is denial. It's shocking, period. And you deny it. You don't want to accept it. You reject it. And then the next step is anger. You get mad at everyone, especially the people around you, the closed ones. And you may point your finger to different people and you blame others and the circumstances and conditions because of that crisis, because you're going through that 5 stages of grief or 5 stages facing a crisis. And then the next step is bargaining. So you want to cut deal with God, with the universe, with nature, with someone. And desperately, you're seeking for help, you're praying. And then when nothing happens, because you are responsible for that, you need to do something, you need to take action, You need to go through a process, and you don't get any response from your prayers, from your desperation, from your bargaining, then you get depressed and you go through depression. And then finally, you go through acceptance and you accept it. And unfortunately, many leaders, many people, they get stuck in one of these stages, especially the acceptance. They accept it and they give up. They say, that's it. They submit to failure. Instead of taking the failure as a lesson, they submit to it, they quit, they give in. And they may change their career, they may change the company, organization, or maybe they get retired or do something else. But this is not you if you are prepared. When you face a crisis, what will happen? Based on my experience through those many years, from my teenage years that I was in a leadership position in high school, and go through those steps, those careers, those jobs and organizations and companies, I learned that facing a crisis and surviving and thriving through a crisis needs 10 principles that I learned it gradually through my career. And as I mentioned, since 2014, I'm doing coaching and speaking on leadership. And you may ask, why now you are focusing on crisis rather than the other aspects of leadership? There is a reason for that, because most likely you were aware of the situation, that after a long period of going up through the economy and everything was blooming, and it was our maybe spring and summer, and now we are facing the fall and winter, especially winter that is coming. And now is winter too, like seasonally. So this is a season of businesses, of companies, organizations, and it could be the winter of our life also. So it's very important to know about these principles, to be prepared, to get ready, and then go through the crisis successfully. First, when you look at the crisis, you see it as a very complex item, maybe very complex problem that it seems impossible to solve. But if you know these 10 principles, you will go through the crisis successfully. What should you do? First, instead of panicking, orient yourself. Orientation is very important. So orient yourself. Just imagine that you find yourself in a new town that you don't know anyone, you don't know anywhere, you don't know anything about that place. First, you panic, right? But instead of panicking, if you orient yourself to the environment around you, and then go step by step and get a little bit farther and farther and ask some people, then finally you orient yourself to that place. And soon you will find, for example, a hotel or someone who can help you. This is the same with the organization or company going through a crisis. So instead of panicking, orient yourself to the problem and do the analysis, view that problem from different angles. And then you get ready for breaking down that complex problem to smaller steps and simpler steps that are conquerable, that are solvable. And then you organize them. You form those steps, step by step, you organize them, maybe in different categories, and then go for the first step, because first thing is first. Conquer the first step, solve that simple step, and use it as a stepping stone for the next one, and move forward and up, step by step, go up. And then record and review whatever you're doing. Step by step, record them and review them. And use experts for any step, any part of that complex problem that you broke it down to simpler and solvable steps. Now you get experts on your team. You get experts for those kind of problems to help you to solve them. And remember, effective communication is very, very important, because if you alone or your leadership team alone are on one page, and the other people, the staff, the subordinates, the employees, the other team members, they are not on the same page with you, then you cannot solve that problem. You cannot go through that crisis. So that's why it's very important to use effective communication. And then finally, the last item, the last principle, is getting opinion from outsiders, from the people who see your company, your organization from outside. Because sometimes we focus inside, we focus on solving a problem and going through a crisis, and then we forget to get a view from outside. What is the perception of other people from outside of the company, outside of the organization? And that's why it's very important to get the opinion of experts, of people who believe in your organization, your fans from outside. Even the critics, even those people, they are against your organization, because it's very important to know about it. And many times, actually, they reveal something, like even the opponents, they reveal something that we didn't know about. And these 10 principles are very, very important for you to go through a crisis. I have been through many crises in my professional and personal life. I can say in any aspect of my life, I have been through crisis, and always I passed it successfully, thanks to many leadership lessons that I learned from other leaders, from other people, from coaches, from speakers, from people above me. And I learned it, I put them together, and I could come up successfully every time. Now, if you're going through a crisis, if you think this video is helpful, you can use it, you can watch it again and share it with your colleagues, with your coworkers, with the leaders in your company or organization, with your friends, maybe are not in your organization, but they are leading another organization or company. And I will be glad to meet you if you need any assistance in speaking engagement for your leadership team, for your staff, and a combination of both, or workshop, so I can hold a workshop in your organization for your leadership team and for your employees, your staff, your other team members, and through maybe personal coaching to assist you to be a great leader, to become better and better in your leadership, and you go through a crisis successfully, and you can survive and thrive. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to meet you and serve you. This is my email, dylan@dylandolati.com, or if you're watching this video on my website, you can simply just go to the contact form, click on it and fill it out and submit it. I'll be glad to respond to you and assist you to become a great leader. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.